Today, we're diving into a real head-scratcher, an inland mystery. It's all about an animal that a lot of Australians think they know inside and out, but it turns out it has a secret life, and that secret is putting it in some serious danger.
Yeah, you've probably seen this little guy around, right? If you're in Eastern Australia, the common ringtail possum is practically a neighbor. You've seen them scurrying along fences, maybe even setting up shop in your garden. But what if I told you that familiar face isn't telling you the whole story?
Because as it turns out, there is a hidden story, a real mystery that's playing out far away from our backyards, deep in the woodlands of inland New South Wales.
And this is the heart of it all. How can a species be doing so well, thriving in our suburbs, but at the very same time just quietly vanishing from the bush? The answer reveals a really surprising weakness in a creature we all thought was incredibly adaptable.
So here's how we're going to crack this case. First, we'll look at the problem of the disappearing possum. Then we'll go inside a key scientific investigation called the Black Rock Study. We'll find out why their homes are so incredibly important, the dangers they're facing, and what it might actually take to save them.
All right, let's jump in with the first piece of the puzzle, this whole disappearing possum situation. I mean, before you can solve a mystery, you have to establish that there's actually a problem to begin with, right?
And look, this isn't just a hunch. For years, scientists have been raising the alarm. The data is pretty clear. While the coastal possums are doing just fine, their inland cousins are quietly vanishing.
And this brings up the central question that really had scientists puzzled. What is going on here? Are the inland possums somehow different? Is their environment just fundamentally more dangerous? To find out, we have to go to the scene.
And to answer that, we kind of have to put on our scientific detective hats. So let's go inside the Black Rock Study, where a team of researchers went hunting for clues. So, our location is Black Rock Ridge in New South Wales. Now, what's really fascinating about this place is its isolation. It's a patch of native vegetation, basically an island of woodland in this vast sea of cleared farmland. It's the perfect natural laboratory to study a contained population. So, for 4 nights in a row, researchers were out there, walking the ridge with spotlights. They weren't just counting possums. They were meticulously recording every single detail: what trees the possums were in, how many there were, and most importantly, where they were living. So what did they find? Well, the numbers themselves weren't super alarming. 38 possums, at a density that seemed pretty normal for this kind of forest. So, on paper, it looked like a healthy population. But the real clue wasn't in how many possums they found. It was in where they were living.
This brings us to the major breakthrough of the study, the one clue that pretty much changed everything we thought we knew about the inland ringtail's lifestyle.
Okay, first you need to know about something called a drey. This is the classic ringtail possum home. It's a self-built, basketball-sized nest made of woven leaves and twigs. Coastal possums are famous for building these in dense bushes. They are essentially master builders.
So you've got 2 possibilities here. On the left, you've got what we expect from a ringtail, that self-built nest, the drey. But on the right, well, that's what researchers actually found at Black Rock. The possums weren't building at all. They were just using existing hollows in old trees.
So how many of those classic self-built dreys did the researchers find on that entire 1,030-hectare ridge? 0. A big fat 0. Not a single one. This wasn't just a preference. This was a completely different way of life.
And this is the crucial discovery. Inland possums aren't builders, they're renters. They are 100% dependent on finding a pre-existing hollow. And when your survival depends on a housing market you can't control, that is a massive risk.
This complete dependence on tree hollows is the key to their vulnerability. It exposes them to a whole set of critical threats.
The study really identified 3 big ones. First, these possum populations are isolated on islands, like Black Rock Ridge, unable to just move across the cleared farmland. Second, the old trees with the hollows they need are becoming a rarer and rarer resource. And third, even within these islands, grazing by sheep can degrade the habitat, removing all the good ground cover.
This simple chart shows the problem perfectly. On the remnant ridge, you've got a good supply of old, hollow-bearing trees. But the second you step off that ridge into the surrounding farmland, that resource just plummets. The possums are basically trapped in a shrinking housing market.
So, now that we understand the problem, what's the solution? Well, the study's findings actually give us a pretty clear roadmap for conservation.
It's all about the real estate. To save the inland ringtail, we have to protect the remaining patches of old forest with their precious hollows. And just as importantly, we need to create corridors to connect these islands so the possums can move, breed, and find new homes.
And this is why it's so urgent. A possum's home isn't built in a day. It takes over 80 years and often more than a century for a tree to get old enough for natural processes to carve out a hollow that a ringtail can even use. We can't just plant new trees and wait.
So we end with this thought. We've uncovered the secret life of the inland ringtail possum. It's a specialist renter, not a generalist builder. Knowing that their homes take a century or more to form, well, the challenge for us is to start thinking and planning in forest time, not human time. That's how we ensure this familiar face doesn't just vanish from the inland landscape for good.